Welcome into Athletes Unplugged. I'm your host, DeQuell Jackson. And today joining the show is Deon Jones. He's a musician. He's a singer slash songwriter out of the Los Angeles area. His work has been featured in Rolling Stones, the magazine. He's been in Ebony magazine, Power 100 list. And every time he performs, the crowd gets bigger and bigger to a sold out capacity. And he's here to talk about his journey as a newfound musician and thriving in this entertainment space. So with that, Deon, thanks for joining the show, brother. I appreciate it.
I'm excited to be here, big bro. This is exciting.
Yes, yeah, man, that camera is sharp, bro. That camera is sharp. I'm not gonna lie.
Now you see what I was like, no, I got
it. That camera is sharp.
What's wrong with it? It's wrong with it.
Yeah, so
look quarantine hat.
So normally anytime I have a guest on, I always start with their upbringing and, kind of give a family history, but I want to do something different with you, if that's all right with you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I want to start, the summer of 2020, obviously, it's the middle of COVID. A lot of people lost jobs. A lot of people lost their loved ones. And the world was just, it took us all by storm. And in the midst of all of that was the George Floyd incident. Mm-hmm. We all can remember of an innocent, unarmed Black man being brutally murdered at the hands of a police officer. And what came about after that was this tidal wave of protests. Mm-hmm. And you were one of those people to protest. And me personally, I wasn't. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I want to start there in terms of, why it was so important for you to get out and protest, because obviously it was about, social injustice and inequality and those types of things. So in your words, if you could tell me, just how important, why you went out to protest during the summer of 2020.
Yeah, a couple of reasons. One, I think we were all just impacted by that video, and those of us particularly who are Black, seeing that on the heels of Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown, Sandra Bland, et cetera, who had been killed by the hands or in capacity of the state in some way. Obviously, Sandra Bland died in prison, in jail. But we had already been so traumatized and affected by that obviously all of us were feeling something inside. And I live downtown LA. And so a lot of the protests started downtown here. And particularly Black Lives Matter LA, every Wednesday, even before 2020 happened, every Wednesday, they were in front of City Hall, demanding justice on behalf of a lot of the families here in LA and LA County, and also demanding that we get a new DA. So our DA that year, Jackie Lacey, had also got kicked out of office by the movement.
Got it.
So we had sort of already felt that. And so being downtown and during that time, and hearing people outside, calling and chanting for a better America, for a better society, that stuck with you. And you can hear it, but are you going to decide to sit on the couch or are you going to go out there and join? Now, I know many people have their reasons of how they joined and didn't join, but for me, I thought about movements, any particular civil rights movement, although, yes, we had elders who were leading, the people who were in the streets. When you think about the Birmingham campaign of 1963, you think about Albany, I think in 1960, Albany, Georgia. You think about Freedom Summer in 1964 in Mississippi. Those were 20-year-olds and college students under 30. And I think about those young folks who were out there changing society, right? And so I equated sort of what I could do based on what they were able to do. Right. And then the last thing, I thought about, my future children. I thought about King. I thought about, my nieces, nephew, my niece, and young folks who will ask me one day when they learn history, did you remember that and what did you do? And I remember my grandmother, I asked her, has she ever marched with Dr. King? And she did one. I mean, probably any Black person over 60 would probably say they did, but
Right.
but she went to Mississippi Valley State, and she did, and I knew she wasn't telling the story, telling a lie, because Dr. King, when James Merrill, the first man who integrated the University of Mississippi, had his No Fear March, and he got shot on that No Fear March, and he didn't know he got shot. Dr. King came to the Delta in Mississippi to finish his march, and my grandmother was in college at the time in the Delta, and he was able to tell me, yes, I was there. And so I thought about, what am I going to be able to tell my children, my grandchildren? I want to be able to say, yes, I was there and I was out there doing it. So that's sort of, those reasons together is what sort of catapulted me to like walk out my door, put my shoes on, and join the march.
Yeah, that's great. It's always great to have some context to why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I bring all of that up. I know some people may say, why would you start there? But I bring all of that up because, in your words, I want you to tell, it actually, that moment, you had a traumatic moment to happen, that we've heard a lot of stories throughout that summer of traumatic moments, traumatic events that just will carry on forever, that are everlasting. But you had a unique story because you had a traumatic experience, but you were able to just, you have a story of resilience and perseverance. Can you talk about the days of May 29th and May 30th that affected your life and projected you on this new journey into music?
Yeah. So on May 29th, I was out marching with some friends, ended up getting arrested that night and going to jail. And just remember that experience, being put on a literal cage on a bus.
Wow.
On the sheriff bus.
For protesting. Taking the bus downtown to the precinct, and sitting in jail, so I remember that, ended up getting out and going to the sort of the larger march that everybody sort of knew about on May 30th, which was in Pan Pacific Park here in LA. And again, reminding you of moments that you learn about in history, just movements in general, a rainbow of people, ages, races, creeds, religions coming together to join the movement for Black Lives. Ended up being stopped by a police line barricade, and it sort of, got crazy. As we were trying to, me and the folks person I came with, as we were trying to leave, we found ourselves in the Trader Joe's parking lot. And as we found ourselves in the Trader Joe's parking lot, to make a long story short, I ended up getting shot by the police with a rubber bullet in my face. So can I interject for one? Did you know it was a rubber bullet at the time, or were you just in such shock? I've never been hit by a rubber bullet. I've been, around it when I was in Maryland, when Maryland would beat Duke, but it was like a college atmosphere. But I remember being in that moment and just hearing the shots fire. I thought people were getting shot.
Yeah.
So it was traumatic for me then. So to actually get hit, what's going through your mind at that point?
Yeah. So the night before, the police were shooting rubber bullets. So I was familiar with the gun and the projectile in itself and the sound of it.
And that still didn't deter you from showing up the next day and protesting and.
Yeah, because I thought about, and just a quick on that, because I thought about, one, I didn't think that because of the particular planning that went around the protest on Saturday, and kids were there and older people were there and et cetera, you didn't think that the police was going to act as crazy as they had been.
Got it.
And so I was a little bit familiar with what rubber bullets were, and what the machine looked like. What was interesting for me is I actually saw the police officer aim at me.
Oh, wow.
See him aim at me.
Oh, wow. That's different.
Try to move quickly. And that's actually how I got hit, where I got hit, because I tried to move my face and then it hit me in the side. More so than it could have, hit me in my eye or something like that.
Right.
So I still process the small blessings of the small blessings within the seconds of each moment of that day. I still saw the process, and I find new ones every time I sort of talk about it.
Right.
I just did right then. So yeah, so I knew that, and so I get hit. I immediately feel it, and then there was this strong ringing in my head, and never being hit in that capacity. I always tell people, like, think about the person who hated you the most and had you tied up to a chair and just like hitting you with a metal pipe in your face. Like whatever that feeling is probably what it is, right? And so there was this ringing in my head. And so what I thought is that the ringing was a ringing to unconsciousness and possible death. And so I remember saying, God, like, do not let me die here. Do not let me die here. I remember saying that. And then my friend, Yara, ends up grabbing me. And we end up sort of skewing through a little alleyway and find ourselves on the outside premises of the sort of shopping sort of area. And then I finally collapse. And then that's when I sort of gained the idea of what even sort of happened at that moment.
Oh my gosh. So that's traumatic. I mean, listen, I know a lot of people protested, and for what you told me, it looked like a peaceful you have kids, old people, just a collection of people, marching for a commonality. And for you to get hit the way you did and actually see the officer, aim the weapon at you, I can imagine being in that moment and going through that. Yeah. But so that happens, right? So you're in the hospital, you have to go through rehab, and I'm sure you probably had to speak to someone because that's such a traumatic experience. But let's position to what happens next. At that moment, if you could talk about your relationship with Glenn, and I don't want to mess up his last name. Is it Kano?
Kaino. So
Kaino?
No. So Kai, no.
Kaino. Yeah. So if you can tell me how that, obviously I know the backstory with you guys' friendship and working relationship. At what point from being hit, getting hit, protesting, being in the hospital, dealing with such a traumatic moment, did you realize, when you guys realized, okay, how do we make something out of this? Because that could have easily been a defining moment for you in terms of protesting and standing up for what's right. But instead, unlike many other people, listen, you have a unique ability to be in a moment. How did you find this next moment of you becoming an artist? Because that's
right? So two things to that. So one, Glenn is like a surrogate father to me. And I think that I've had great, strong mentors. And I think for me, growing up, although I am committed to doing work with my actual father, he and I have never had a relationship. And I've had strong male mentors in my life. And what I have found is that before I met Glenn, what I found is that because of me not having a father, I was trying to find fathers in all of those strong male mentors. Even though that their only capacity in my life was to be my mentor and not to be a father figure, even though they had fatherly characteristics.
Got it.
I think I was trying to grasp hold of that. Over the past 7 years with my relationship with Glenn, he is the closest thing to a father that I've ever had in my life. And so I call him my father, brother, friend. Because he's sort of not old enough to really be my father.
Yeah, and I haven't figured out exactly. You can't put him in the box. What is he, like a conceptual artist?
He's a conceptual artist.
Yeah.
And just one of the most brilliant men I know. And so that day when it happened, as soon as it happened, I checked in with him as my father versus, this creative collaboration, the relationship that we had all the time. And then he checked in with me as his son.
Right.
Well, we have actually dissected, the evolution of our relationship pretty clearly. And the way that I was able to characterize able to characterize that relationship even now the way I am is because what I've realized over the past 7 years, and particularly now because I met him when I was 23, 24, and I just turned 30. What I have been able to, particularly now, is that all of my time with him, my dreams became his dreams. And I think that's for any father, your dreams become your kids' dreams, and any way you're able to help them achieve those, you will.
Sure. Yeah.
And I know I can just talk to him about anything, the same way I can talk to you about anything. And so fast forward, so that day that was happening, and we were really just focused on the healing process in the beginning. But at the time, Glenn was working on one of the most important exhibitions of his career at the Massachusetts Museum of Contemporary Art that he had really been working on since 2018.
Wow.
And even actually before 2018, because it was actually supposed to open.
Wow. Sure.
In sort of during the pandemic. So he had been working on it for a very long time. And 2020, obviously the pandemic sort of messed some things up, delayed some things. And so he was still sort of building it, and things were changing. And obviously this moment, as many moments have happened in he and our creative relationship, the moments of the time changed the direction of whatever we're working on. As you know, with our Tommy Smith documentary, it changed. Right. When we started on it, Colin Kaepernick hadn't even taken a knee.
Right.
So you sort of adjust to what's happening. And so this is happening as he is, creating and forming an exhibition around the two sort of most significant international protests of our time, which is Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama, and then Bloody Sunday in Derry, Northern Ireland. So as you're creating, things for this exhibition, we're now living in a time where America and the world is sort of having a racial reckoning. Right. And so part of the Derry Northern Ireland piece is U2 and Bono had recorded a song at that time called Sunday Bloody Sunday, and it's a rocker song, and Bono sung it at Live Aid, and it's just a beautiful song.
Beautiful song.
And one of the things that when it happened, when I got injured, it was already planning that, like, wow, what a great idea if we were able to get, Bono, and I don't want to say the other artists on the thing, but we were able to get, Bono and another artist to redo this song.
Right.
And that was like the original plan. And when I was injured a few months later, Glenn called me, said, I talked to the museum, I talked to the team, and we all believe that you should sing this song. And and I had already been trying to sort of figure out my journey as an artist. I don't think I was not ever an artist. I think it was, when was I actually going to step into it?
Right.
Right. And so I was around 2018, I had as I'm working on my debut album now, really beginning to think about sort of some of the themes that I'm exploring in 2018, and then just life happens and you try to stay in a lane that is comfortable for you. And then something traumatic like this happens, and you get the opportunity to do it. And so I said yes. And so Glenn calls a legendary producer named Butch Vig, who is legendary from Nirvana. And Butch said, well, can he sing? And Glenn puts on FaceTime, and I literally sing for Butch Vig. And Butch was like, whoa, he is amazing. And so Butch agrees to produce the track for me.
What song was it? Did you sing in any particular song?
I actually think I saw Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Did you really?
Yeah. I think I sung the first verse. But I sung it in the way that I would sing it. I didn't sing it the right way.
Right.
And so I sing the song. Butch agrees to produce it, and then he says, "Well, we need a piano player to do it." And so I was like, "Well, John knows what I'm doing. John Batiste knows what I'm doing. He knows I'm working on this music thing." And I was like, "Well, let me see if I call John and just see what he says."
Wow. And so for everyone who knows, John Batiste is an Academy Award winning composer who's now, everyone should know who he is now. He's blown up for his musical talent. So yeah, I'll let you carry on.
Grammy Awards, Album of the Year.
Yes.
Just blowing up right now, and I love him so much for this yes that he gave me. So I cold call him and I let him know what I'm doing. And he says yes on the phone.
What was that moment like? Now you have a guy you have all the moving parts in place.
Yeah.
You're coming off of such a traumatic moment. This is your moment.
Yeah.
This is your moment. I can only imagine what was going through your mind at that point. And listen, I mean, everyone likes to get their career started, but in this fashion, I mean, it's just a remarkable story as you're telling, but I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, no, so he says yes. And I'll just because there are a lot of these moments to the story, so that'll be able to answer the question towards the end at me telling this. So he says yes. Then we off to the races. Right. And so I sing the song. So he says yes. Butch puts the team together, he and Glenn, for me to go into East West Studios, which is a legendary studio here in Los Angeles. And I go into this huge room where Frank Sinatra and Dionne Warwick and all of these folks have recorded in the same room. Wow. I use the microphone that Michael Jackson recorded Thriller on. And the switchboard also, that was where Quincy Jones mixed Thriller that the used.
That's a hit factory.
Yeah, it's a hit. It's literally a hit factory. And I brought my cousin in to vocal produce me. And there's an incredible clip of Stephen Sondheim and Elaine. I'm gonna forget. I think it's Streicher, but she's in the studio singing "The Ladies Who Lunch" for Stephen Sondheim's company. And Stephen Sondheim is like, they're in New York, and her voice was tired. She was older. Wasn't the greatest singer, but she has to sing this song. Right. And there was a day where she was just, she wasn't getting it. She wasn't getting it. And she was so determined. Like, this is the greatest thing that I will probably ever do. I am committed to getting this right. Right. And, I'm just used to singing, and there we go. And so Glenn was like, another take.
So Glenn was producing.
Glenn's producing me. Another thing. I have my cousin there. And I sing this song, and it's one of the most beautiful things.
It took off.
And sing the song, send it to John. John plays over me singing, adds his own solo to it. Then it comes back, and we're like, whoa.
Blown away.
And then so the last piece of that is we ended up taking that song and then making a video that Larry
Fong. Video is powerful. I've seen that video multiple times. That video is powerful. And I didn't realize the cage, which can symbolize a jail, you trapped, and come to find out it's actually an instrument.
Yes,
the creativity in that video from Glenn is just off the charts once you dive deep into it.
Yeah, that plays the actual song, and Larry Fong directs it, who's done 300, Batman vs Superman, all these things, and we are guided, I think, by a common cause, and this is to sort of just wrap it up in a very powerful way. there was a guy on the set. And then also like Annie Clemens, like was my acting coach. So there was a guy on the set, and Larry Fong was like, because COVID, Larry was like, yo, I have this guy who just wants to come and help out. He was really inspired by the story. And he happened to be John Lewis's nephew.
Get out of here.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
At the time had 2 drawings that he did of me injured and John Lewis, just John Lewis. And John Lewis, as many people know, at that time was dying of cancer.
Right.
And happened to be John Lewis' nephew. And I've known John Lewis since I was 16. He's like, yo, I'm John, I'm here with Deon and Glenn. We're doing this video, etc. So we make this beautiful thing. And you ask, what did it feel like to get the yes from John, to get the yes from Butch Vig, to get the yes from a Larry Fong, for Glenn to bring all these together, not only as my father, brother, friend, but as someone who truly believes in me.
He believes in you.
Yeah, who believes in me as an artist. It was the first step to me stepping into God's dream for me. And I say that God's dream for me is because if it is his dream for you, then the yeses will come. And that's what I found. Although there will be no's, but the yeses will be the yeses that you deserve.
The meaningful yes.
Yeah. And I always say that God doesn't write our stories from the beginning to the end, but from the end to the beginning. So when he said it is finished on the cross, that means the life is already figured out. So the idea that for me is I go into situations in expectation of the yes, but knowing if I get the no, that wasn't for me.
Right. That's amazing.
So that's sort of like how it just felt that this is what I'm supposed to be doing because the yeses are here.
Yeah, and it sounds like there was no doubt you weren't going to step into this new space that you've always wanted to pursue. Exactly. It just so happened it took some traumatic experience to align everything for you to step into it and take off.
Exactly.
So speaking of taking off,
I grabbed the moment.
You grabbed the moment. You chokehold that moment.
Yeah. I grabbed the moment.
Yeah. So now, you were here at the house last week and we had a chance to talk and catch up, which was great. Always great seeing you. And we went down this rabbit hole of, man, now you're touring. Now you were featured in the museum and now you got the buzz going. And I want everyone to understand this. You have only you got into the studio for the very first time to start recording your album was last year. This all happened in a matter of 2 years.
Yeah.
And you've had such a trajectory in the music industry. And I remember, I'll touch on that a little bit later, but so what happens after that? So now you got the pub, you have the momentum. Now it's about, getting your name out, performing in front of different audiences. Yeah. And for what, I followed you from the very beginning. Everywhere I see you perform, there's a lot of people showing up.
Yeah.
And your message slowly is trickulating through this undercurrent of people with this message of you have this sort of rock, soul and gospel tone that resonates with a lot of people. And you have a story behind it.
Yeah.
And you have your brand behind it.
Yeah.
What's next? What's next for you? Like, is there a tour coming up? I know you're working on the album right now, correct?
Yes, I'm working on the album. So you're right.
How much can you talk about the album without telling the whole, whatever you're comfortable with?
I what I'm exploring right now is Revival Lives. Let me plug up this thing. So I'm gonna just let's talk about Revival Lives, not Revival. So Sunday Bloody Sunday lives from the video through the fall, and it's still living. It's living, but like the idea that I was, I performed at Performa, and so I did my first live version of Sunday Bloody Sunday for them, which is a premier, sort of art institution. Then the video got placed in Mass Mocha inside of Glenn's exhibition that he put in. And it's the last thing that people see as they go through this already powerful emotional exhibition, the last thing you see, it brings it to the now, with the piece in there as well. And up until this point, probably a half a million people have seen that video, if not more. And so I'm in Massimoka, the largest contemporary art museum in North America, a place that's not only known for their exhibitions, but it's also a magical performing arts center as well. So I'm in this one of the most prestigious museums in the country, in the world, actually. So as this is happening, I am deliberately now pursuing that idea from 2018 revival, right? And so January 2021 comes, I go into the studio and begin to record. And this idea that I'm exploring is what revival really means, and how can we find that within ourselves, as many people have tried to find true freedom coming out of the pandemic, coming out of the evolutions and the transformations that a lot of people, personal transformations that a lot of people have had during the pandemic. Sure. And I took the idea from me growing up in church and seeing people get Jesus in this small town, but these same folks who were in church getting Jesus and the Holy Ghost were the same folks who were going to the climax and doing all kinds of crazy shit up in there. And it's no different than the person who's going to the circuit party, or the different person who, you know, is having the amazing sexual experience. But what all those experiences are people getting their fix in the way for them to feel renewed, reviving, that they can go on and live another week if needed, right? And so what I realized is that most revivals outside of church are suppressed. So this because dominant society tells us what's profane and what's sacred. And so because we have a fear of being judged of who we really are, we suppress those feelings in order to get our true revivals. And so this idea that I'm exploring in my album is, what does it look like for us not to suppress that and allow our true intentions, our true feelings, our true wants, and our truly things that we need to get our fix to rise up within us in order for us to be our freest self. And that's what revival really is. And so the songs that I'm writing and are exploring are either personal revivals that I have myself, or ones that I have seen via other people. And I'm bringing back the interludes with some cool folks, folks.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So yeah, and the other thing that I'll just say around why I feel not only I think the hand of God in this, but why I feel it's resonating with folks is because I remember my first big live show, which was in June of 2021. It was the first time a lot of people had been seeing live music since the pandemic.
Sure.
There was a lot of emotion around that.
Right.
But people are searching to not go back to being the same person they were pre-March 2020. Or they're trying to explore this new person that they've become, or they're trying to figure out, who am I? Because I'm actually really scared of this new person. But what people are really searching for is internal peace and freedom. And I think that's what we all really want as human beings. And so if I can push that through my music, I think that's what's resonating with people. And I think that's why, you know, even most recently, you know, I've been selling out museums and, you know, 10,000 people in arenas and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's what's resonating with folks.
Got it. Do you ever feel like it happened too quickly? Do you ever feel like that? You feel like you're in your moment and you never look, you know, when you reflect, like, man, a lot has happened in a short period of time. Like, why me? Do you ever, you know, go down that rabbit hole?
Yeah, no, I don't do the why. I don't do the why. Maybe I used to probably do the why.
The new you want is not even
something bad happened. But I don't really do the why me. I don't really do even when bad things happen or things that I'm not a fan of happen. I don't really do the why me anymore, because I believe that things don't happen to you; they happen for you. And so So I really believe that. Do I think things sort of happen too fast? And I actually think they happened at the right time. I remember we talked before we even, when we were setting this up, I thought about when you said part of it was going to touch on like even just some of the things that I did in the past. And even when I think about, because I did think about like, well, should I have started this sooner? Should I have this before? And I realized that every experience that I has prepared me in some way for the moment that I have now, because I am very much, I know who I am at the core, and I'm grounded in that. And I'm also one of those, and I'm really grounded. And what grounds me in that is that, I'm a fervent, like, spiritual person, even though I don't sing gospel music, but like I'm a spiritual person. And I'm also in that when I pray, I'm actually a person who listens and heeds to what is told to me versus, should I do it right? So I think everything prepared me and every experience prepared me for the most, and I see it show up in different ways, not only if I'm like through the art, but just through the business around being an artist as well. And what's
yeah. So how did the partnership with Puma come about? I'm assuming it, obviously you had that relationship through Tommy Smith and working with him and getting the film up and going, because I didn't know this beforehand, but I realized you have a partnership with Puma that they have a YouTube channel titled Is Anyone Listening? And so this is what I want to, again, this show is intended to give everyone their flowers while they're doing it. And I love to try to catch people on the rise. And I feel like you encapsulate all of that, what I want to do with this podcast. So I have to give you flowers before I get to my question, in terms of I feel like you're different from a lot of other musicians, because obviously you're extremely talented, right? You can sing your ass off, you're a performer, you embody it, you are an artist. And the one thing that I feel like gives you the credibility is because you've worked in this space prior to, in the corporate world, and the policy side of things in DC here. And that's how we've known to know each other. And you have this platform now, and you're kicking down the doors, and you live what you talk about and what you sing about it comes from a very genuine place. I know that about you.
Yeah.
So let me go back to my original question. How did after the Sunday, Bloody Sunday, you being, partnering with Glenn, being at the Mass Mocha Museum, how did that parlay this partnership with Puma?
Yeah, so they had this platform called Reform that started with Tommy and Meek Mill and Skylar Diggs in 2018, which was the 50th anniversary of Tommy's salute. And so they started Reform, started this piece called Anyone Is Listening, really at the beginning with their folks who were already connected to the brand, speaking about issues that they cared about. And they approached me. They was like, yo, we have this idea. We really want to elevate what this is. We really want to begin to bring in other folks and sort of amplify these conversations in a way that relates to folks' everyday life and how do they live to make the world a better place for the everyday. And that's sort of what I was very sort of interested in as well, because I never wanted to be boxed in, and I hate being boxed in. And I always say, like, once I got shot in the face, people just automatically called me an activist, no matter whatever else I had done before. You know what I mean? And I believe activism. There is a different thing with what I do versus what a Tamika Mallory or a Latasha Brown or Brittany Packnett and others may do, right? Or a Melina Abdullah and folks in the streets.
Right.
And I believe there is a role in a different activism that all of us can play to push the agenda forward.
Right.
And I think if we look at the history of movements, it takes people in multiple industries to do that.
No doubt.
And so for me, when they approached me with it, I really wanted to talk to folks around their everyday practice and how their everyday practice actually helps push the movement forward.
Right.
So what I'm talking through June Ambrose and how she's transforming the way women see themselves,
Right.
and particularly black women see themselves, who are athletic, who are on the court, who are, particularly the WNBA particularly,
Right.
how they can, use fashion to really make a statement.
Right.
Right. I talked to Glenn, obviously, through his work as a conceptual artist and the exhibitions that he has. And anybody who's seen the exhibition at Mass Mocha know how monumental it is. How is that in the middle of Derry, Northern Ireland? I mean, not Northern Ireland, but in the middle of North Islands, Massachusetts, where, if you can find some black folks, let me know.
Right.
Folks who are not black come and see this show and then see me at the end. What's the intention around that, and how does that change their perspective of how they think of the movements, right? And so I try to have these conversations with folks who may not actually be on the ground, but in other ways are using their platform and using their work to push the movement forward. And I think that's important to see, because when people say, "Oh, I'm not an activist," well, you actually are. You're just doing it the way. Same way the person who's funding the movement. It's really important also to have those folks who can write the $1 million checks to keep, the organization that you're running, up and afloat. Like Harry Belafonte, plays such a crucial role in keeping the SCLC up and afloat during the 60s, as many other Jackie Robinson, as many other, who were means at that time. And so that's sort of like how I approached that show. And, it's been cool. It's been cool to have it. It's been cool to have the platform, be able to have the conversations.
Yeah, I want to go back. We got to go back to the music. We got to go back to the music. You talked about revival. You talked about how you doing this powerful rendition of Sunday Bloody Sunday just propelled you into this new stratosphere. Any new shows coming up that we should know about? Any tours, or it's in the making? Because when you were here last week, Christine and I, we were dead set on it. We talked about after you left, like, we have to go support you wherever you are. Just so we don't want to be that supporter from afar. We need to show our solidarity for our brother wherever you perform. We want to show up, man, and we're just so thrilled that you're in this position. And for you, it only happens for you, right? It's like you're one of those people that are extremely intelligent, extremely motivated, and to have this moment here, I feel like my little brother. I'm walking through it with you. It puts a smile on my face to see you doing well. So, what's next for you in terms of from a music standpoint?
Yeah, I feel that pride. I felt it when I was at y'all house, and I'm just grateful to have y'all in my life as well. Just all the stages of my life, and. So there are some coming up. So I have one October 1st. Actually, I am honoring Tommy Smith at his annual gala on October 1st in Atlanta. I don't even know if that. I think they're like going to start promoting that.
Got it.
But on October 1st, because right now I'm very deep in like finishing this album. Like I'm very like deep in it, because I have just been like going.
When can we expect it? When does that? When you finish it and I don't know the music business. From the time you finish doing what you're doing, it has to go through different channels, I would imagine, before it actually gets published to the public. Like what?
Yeah, I have set September. I have set my deadline, because I've been working on it. So it's just like, the intentional focus. I mean, as when the season's about to start, like, you can party a little bit in the summer, but you got to go into training, you got to go to camp right now.
So speaking of training, what type of, have you adopted this new, kind of workout routine now in terms of vocals and eating right, or watching what you drink? Like, what has that looked like since you dove deep into this music space?
All of that. So definitely just physical stamina, exercise, all those things. Singing on the treadmill, it's like just really stressing my exercising my instrument. Vocal coach is super important, because although any great singer, you know, the idea for sustainability and breath and all of those things, techniques, if you have to sing with a little scratch in your throat, like what does that look like? Things like that, because it's different than getting up in church singing. You know what I mean?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
There's a whole thing like that. Like, you know, how do you sing your same song, but sing it at a note under if you need to, or et cetera, all those type of things. So vocal coach. I don't do any smoking anymore, so I had to put the weed down.
Sorry about this interference over here. They decided to
had to put the weed down. But then when I'm in practice, you know, or when I'm in camp, as for a familiar term, when I'm in camp, it's like, you know, no alcohol, you know, gallon of water a day, a ginger honey tea in the morning.
Yeah.
Ginger honey tea before I go to bed, sleep with the humidifier, sleep with my air conditioner off.
Wow.
All of those type of things, because it is an instrument, and it's something that you have to really, really work to take care of, watch what you eat. So
it sounds like a lifestyle, new lifestyle.
Yes, so I'm a vegetarian probably over the next, I'm practicing it now, but I'll be doing it over probably the next 2 months. And things like that. Eating hydrating fruit. So like pineapple, watermelon, things like that, like stuff like that. So those are part of the practice. So I'm very much so in camp right now, because I'm really like focused, finishing the album. October, I have that show on October 1st. And there may be which I can't talk about, but there may be a special thing happening also in early October that crossover. And I actually may be coming to DC in October too. So
okay.
So those are so October may be a cool little month. But October 1st is a for sure day. But you know, we're working on some other things. October, very head down. Like I said, like I had just came off Essence. I think I had another show right before then. I'm forgetting, but just finished Essence Fest. Did something right before that. So I just feel like I've been going, and I just so now I'm in very much focus mode, because it's like, you know, you don't want to be on stage singing other people's songs.
Right.
So
that's I mean, I've always wondered what went into. I've had other guests on that were, you know, artists that they were more so rappers, and now you have a singer, and I was always curious about what it actually looked like, because I'm being a former professional athlete. I know you just don't wake up and you become this big talent. You have to actually work at it and change your lifestyle and do all these things necessary in order for you to perform in front of thousands of people.
And the discipline, as you know, I mean, you taught me even some of our early conversations, like the discipline, and that's really what it is the discipline to honor the gift God gave you.
Yes, absolutely. Well said. Said. Is there any producer, anyone that you feel like that's in the business right now that would be a perfect marriage for your sound and what you're trying to convey to your audience?
Yeah, no, I like they're incredible.
Because I feel like I know you have a vision board somewhere.
Yeah, they're incredible dreams. They're incredible dream collabs and dream opportunities. But what I'll say for where I am right now, my brother Zach Seekoff, who is this young, incredible talent, who had known me since the beginning of this journey, and it's a little bit younger than me, but we're in this marriage right now that it couldn't be anybody but him. And I say that because it's interesting, because there will be a time when everybody will knock down your door. I actually have this thing, like, people want you to follow your dreams until you actually follow them.
Right.
And so for somebody who is not only as talented, but well respected and as brilliant as Zach is, and just literally insanely brilliant and so well respected, and the people he's worked with, and is currently working with, you know, for him, I'm grateful to him. Grateful to him for the time he is giving me, and the belief and the partnership and the collaboration that he has agreed to on this journey. And it's just like he's and I honor him in that way because again, it feels the same way when John said yes to me on the phone.
Yes.
And I'm a loyal ass motherfucker. and I am very loyal to and just grateful to what he's pouring into me. And because he knows me, he knows what I'm trying to do. He knows me and he respects me. And he respects my sound. He sees my sound. He knows where my sound, the places that where it should be.
Right.
And he is working his ass off with me and in the trenches right now. So it's like he's the one. Now, if I had something like a person now I can give you a wish board of like, somebody who I always think about like moments like when I'm on stage and if I can just bring somebody on stage, people on stage with me.
Right.
And this gonna sound crazy, but like, speak
it up. Speak it into existence.
Like, Fantasia is my.
Oh yeah. I could definitely see you in Fantasia.
If I could bring Fantasia up on stage with me, Leandria Johnson,
I can definitely see that.
Watching Patti LaBelle live on Patti LaBelle live at the Essence at Essence Festival, and like fucking legend. And I'm like, yo, like if I was to ever tell like,
oh man,
Miss Patty, I got this song. Like, I want you to like.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
My thing is, D, is that like I think one of the things that I think is so different about me than what's out there, what I'm seeing, is that I am massaging people's yearn for nostalgia, and for we hear songs like, "Oh, that remind me of," or "Damn, I wish people still made," and I'm fulfilling a lot of those wishes through my music.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think I'm gonna take this time to plug the show really quick. Listen, if you enjoy this conversation between Deon and myself, please go like and subscribe to Athletes Unplugged and go follow Deon on Instagram and Twitter at Deon T. Jones on Instagram and Twitter. Now, my next question to you is, what do you think about the state of music where it is now? Because now you have you have these artists that's breaking through these different genres. You can't put anything in these little boxes that we used to before. Hip hop, rap, you have so many different diverse sounds. And I'm one of those people, if it sounds good up here, I'll give it a chance. If you ask me, what do I listen to? I give anything a chance. So I guess that from an artist standpoint, what do you feel like now is a better opportunity for someone like yourself and other artists, up and coming artists, to flourish and feel confident in the sound they're producing and to generate these different audiences?
Yeah, no. So three quick thoughts about that. So one, I do obviously, the industry changes every day, and it's definitely evolved since what it used to be, et cetera. And I think people are finding I think artists are becoming more fearless in tapping into other areas that they've always wanted to tap into, but didn't think they would be successful in doing it.
Got it.
That's one. I think that's happening. I think the second thing that's happening is we live in a time where you can build your own audience. So through social media, through TikTok, through all these platforms, through a lot of the services where you can put your music places, you can build your audience, right? So you don't really need the labels in a major way anymore to help you do that. For some folks, they don't. A lot of the older artists, it's sort of just not for them. But that's another way that I think that's allowing folks to really just do what they want to do and see what sticks. And I think the third thing is, I think that what's also happening is I think people are, when it comes to whether people want to be a producer, a band member, a singer, be all three, I think that, again, because of technology, you can learn so much, and you realize that you can do a lot of stuff yourself. Like, and I also am a person who's learning it all as well, but I also know where my focus needs to be. I think that's really important. You also probably know that as a player, where you can probably play a lot of different positions, but you know where your focus needs to be. So I know where my focus needs to be. But I think I'm really one of those crazy motherfuckers who believe that I can really do anything that I put my mind to. I think you have to be crazy and a little bit delusional.
Yeah, and we talked about this when you were here. It's like you have to be wired different.
Yeah, you have to be that to fit to say like, oh, I can produce my music, I can compose my music, I can direct my band, I can sing my own songs. Like Prince played every instrument on a song before, and produced it, and directed the band, and sang it, and mixed it, and engineered it.
Wow,
that nigga had to be crazy.
Right. Exactly.
And I think there are many people, I think there are many people, out there who are like that and who are brilliant like that. And I am just grateful and always am thankful to God that people are saying yes to me, because that's the difference between me and somebody who's just as talented, who is still writing down they should have, could have, would have. As Shirley Ralph said in Sister Act 2, write down they should have, could have, would have in their one bedroom apartment.
Yeah, I think that's why you see this huge relationship between pro athletes and entertainers, because there's a level of there's a level of language between the two of us that we understand the dedication it takes to change your lifestyle and to completely disarm yourself and do something everyone's telling you around you have no business doing. Being true to yourself. And I think that's one of the instances of athletes and entertainers kind of gelling together. But let me ask you this before I get you out here. Is there anything you want to share that I didn't bring up that I missed?
Yes, I actually will share it. It's this thing that Oprah wrote in Essence. I'm actually pulling it right now. She wrote this in 1989.
And I forgot about that. You actually worked with Oprah. I forgot.
The queen is definitely a big influence in my life, and I'm really grateful for her. But she wrote this thing in Essence in June 1989, and I actually just read this on Sunday. I found it Sunday because I was over a friend's house, and she had this Essence sort of coffee table book, and I started looking through it.
Yeah.
These quotes from women. And Oprah said that I think ultimately it's a question of focus, of understanding who I am, and of you understanding who you are and what we're each here to do. We will falter unless we know our purpose clearly. My purpose, her purpose, is to do my show every day and to raise the consciousness of my people. My aim is to help people come to know themselves better as I get to know myself better. I am also convinced that the difference between how I handle my life and how other people handle theirs is that I just don't pray. I truly heed the response I am given. Maya Angelou told me a while back that she thought one of my greatest assets is my ability to be obedient to the voice of God within me. And I think she's right. Now, I can really feel the wind beneath my wings, and I'm ready to fly.
That's it, bro. We can end on that. That is well said. We have to end on that. Deon, I appreciate your time and your perspective.
Yeah. And that's how I feel right now. That is exactly how I feel right now.
Yes. I'm always here. Anytime you want to stop by, I'm here. Anytime you need someone to call, I'm here. Again, thank you for your time, your perspective. And listen, if you enjoyed what you heard, you want to hear future and past recordings, please go follow Athletes Unplugged and go follow this man at Deon T. Jones. If you don't know, you better know. You better know the guy's making headway in this musical space. So I salute you, my brother. Thank you again.
Brother. Love you, man.